Hello and welcome back to my channel. I hope everyone's doing well. For those of you who don't already know, I stream on both TikTok and Twitch. And so just to make sure that everyone can read me well, I'm going to go ahead and get started for today's just very short little quick guide. I'm just going to show you guys just a step-by-step process on how I usually practice on drawing hands. So that way it can be pretty useful to you guys if you also want to check it out. Or if you're also trying to get into drawing and get inspired to do so. So first, just to make sure that the music is going okay, let me go ahead and create you guys a nice helpful guide just to kind of help you get your streaming started and also kind of help you plan things day by day and step by step. So of course, just a reminder, the streaming software that I use is called Krita. It's easy to download and it's free to use. You don't have to pay anything. And it's really nice for beginning artists that are interested, just to kind of get into the feel of it. And then also get that practice in order for them to kind of learn and get better moves as well. Alright, so for the first sketch, I'm just going to start overall very simple. Just drawing a box kind of to indicate where the initial lines of the fingers are going to go and then where the initial overall hand is going to be. This is a very easy process step by step. And then we're just going to end up drawing our left hand just to get a good guide or an example. Anytime that I'm drawing hands, I always use my own hand as a reference just to make sure that I'm getting the right details and that I'm also understanding the concept of how my hand is supposed to look like and also get through. And then also, thank you so much for the flower. Thank you so much for the gift. I appreciate it a lot. Welcome. Thank you guys so much for joining. Welcome. Perfect. And then now, when you're drawing the fingers, oftentimes I would like to layer out where each of the fingers are going to be. So because there is going to be space in between, we're going to start off overall very simple. And we're going to take this here. Shorten it and then bring it down. Perfect. So now we're going to use another box method. This is a nice simple box method that most artists use in order to draw their fingers. I usually use this anytime I'm doing something like a front finger pose, just to make sure that it's simple and not overcomplicate things. There we go. And then once we get to the top of the fingers, there's just going to be nubs. And overall stands like this. So this is one sketch. Just to kind of use as a really good outline for any time that we're trying to figure our tools out. Cool. And then now for a side, just a side motion over here. We also have to look at our hands just to kind of get an overall feel of where everything is supposed to be positioned to, and just understand how the overall dynamic and direction that the fingers are going to be at. So as you can see here, You're always supposed to have a nice concept for the inside of your palms. And at any time that you have your thumb, you have to understand that there's going to be a curve right here in this area. And then you're going to curve up and put another number right there. As for the rest of your fingers, usually it is good to divide everything into threes. And then also remember the golden rule that I mentioned to you guys before. The middle finger here is going to be the longest. Divide it in threes. The ring finger here is going to be the second longest. So again, divide by 3. This one's going to be the third. And then finally, the pinky is going to be the shortest. There you go. And just make sure when you're drawing the thumb, everything is pointed up. And then that there's gaps in between each of the fingers. Just to make sure that it looks more realistic and more balanced. There we go. Perfect. Now I'm going to fix this hand over here. Just to make sure we're not confused. There we go. Alright. We have our front view, our side view. And now just to get more creative practice, just drawing our hands from different directions, poses, and positions. So now say, for example, if we're trying to draw our hand from a different angle, where not all of the fingers are exposed, but it is enough to kind of give us a nice overall direction, an idea of what's happening. So actually, I'm going to clean this up just a little bit more. Remember, you're always going to start with just a shape. It doesn't overall have to be rectangular or circle, but just a nice shape that's going to be the core base for your palm. And one thing that you should always remember about the hand is the little indents that are in the middle of it, to kind of give you that grip and that strength for you to use. Alright, Now, anytime that I'm kind of thinking of my hands, I also want to think about finger placement and what's going to be making the most sense to where everything is. So for this position, I'm just going to overall draw the hand trying to grasp or grab something. And the fingers and the thumb are going to be in different positions. So when I do this, I usually use circles, just because that's very helpful for trying to help me figure out placement. So circles and cylinders, just basic shapes to help me understand overall how the hand is supposed to look, and then also where everything is supposed to be. There we go. So that's going to be something here. This is good hand placement right here. Now just remember, this is a sketch. And then once we start inking it out, it should look a lot better. But this is just going to help us create an overall guideline for how we want our sketch, and then also how we want our final results to be. Even right now, you can probably tell I still struggle with hands a lot. They're not always going to be the easiest to draw. But overall fluidity of our hands are practically fun. And just, you know what the old saying goes, practice makes perfect. So when you find the time just to kind of look up or also create sketches that are going to be a nice helpful guide for you. Anytime you're trying to get into the habit of just understanding what things like hands are supposed to be and how they play like an intricate part of your learning process on learning how to draw. Some shortcuts that people use, which is actually very helpful, is instead of trying to learn how to draw the hands individually, say for example the fingers, you try to group everything together like so. And then that's going to help you figure out the separate divide for each of your fingers. So that's like what we did right here. Instead of trying to draw the fingers individually, I just use this big blob, and as long as I remember the golden rule, which one is the biggest, which one is the smallest, and which one is the tallest, that's going to help a lot when determining which fingers go where. So remember, if your thumb is going to be on your left side instead of your right, it's going to be the third finger that's going to be the tallest. And then right after that, it's going to be the fourth finger that's going to be the second tallest. Another golden rule that's very helpful is to remember that if your thumb is going to be all the way on the far left, then your pinky is going to be on the far right. And then if your thumb is on the far right, then your pinky is going to be on the far left. You also have to think about roundness as well, of the overall shape of your hands, and then how that's going to come into play once you have the final results of it. Don't be afraid to curve things at an angle. Because then you might discover that everything kind of looks better that way. And it brings more of a fluidity into your drawings. Alright, better. Another thing to think about is also trying to imagine your hand as a puppet. And how each of the intricate parts of that puppet can be helpful. Where the gears and everything else lies. Just to kind of give your hand the overall shape. So just like how I'm drawing downwards right here, automatically I should know just where overall placement and then how the hands lie. So the hands are actually right now giving me a nice pretty good blocky feeling that I can use as a reference guide for how I'm going to draw everything else later. So the thumb is in front and then the pinky right here is in the back. Perfect. And then the best time and opportunities is also to acknowledge you're trying to do things that are simple. And try to figure out what's going to be the easiest pose for you to get the destined shape and dynamic that you want. So for example, because I'm drawing the palms up here, I'm just gonna think about the fingers being bunched up together and how the palms are supposed to be aligned with everything. There you go. So I'm gonna use the same circle method that I did before. And just make sure that I remember and that I understand our rule of who's the shortest and then who's the tallest. So that looks better. And just for it to be less work on us, there you go. Now it looks like our hands are grasping each other. Just like right here. And then one of the most interesting difficulties that it is difficult for people to kind of get an overall grasp for when you have your hands touching one another, it is kind of hard to kind of figure out which position and which area that each of the hands are supposed to be. Trying to simplify everything is what's going to be overall best. And then from that, you can use that to add in the later details for your hands. There we go. Anytime that I'm drawing two hands together, this is basically my go-to. So instead of just trying to draw everything over again, I usually just try my hardest to duplicate it. That way it stays symmetrical. Perfect. Alright, now this one's going to be a little bit more dynamic. Always remember the 4 rule. And also keep in mind the perception of your hands. So say, for example, if you're drawing your hands open like this, they're not going to always be all prim and proper. And because they are at a different angle, the overall perception of it is going to look different than normal. So now I'm going to use a different color to draw the other hand, just so that we can see. Perfect. See and understand perception. So as you can see here, this is the left hand, this is the right hand. And they're going to be touching each other. Except now, because we're able to see it from a different perception, instead of just drawing the normal one hand like how we did before, we're going to draw it apart like so. Perfect. Now for the other pose. We're gonna get a bit more creative just to practice these poses. This one we're just going to keep it at 3. We're going to take red. There we go. Let's start with red. Perfect. Now when you're drawing hands kind of interconnecting with each other, you also have to keep in mind where they're going to lay on top of each other and how they're going to mesh well in between the folds. And just how they're going to hug and touch each other in between. So oftentimes I do like to think of them as folds. And just have them on top of each other. Just so I can see the divide. And where each of the fingers meet in the middle. You've probably seen it yourself anytime you see like those cute sketches or those cute intertwines in mangas. Drawing hands, especially on top of each other, does tend to be difficult because you're also trying to work with the perspective on where everything lies on top of each other. So for this sketch, I'll just be going back and forth. And then also remember, you have to think about how the fingers are going to be gripping each other. And then coming together every time they're on top of the other hand and the other fingers. So you have to draw the fingers kind of coming out. And just really sitting on top of each other to get a grasp and overall example on how everything's gonna lie. since we do have our hand this way, we are going to see more of the other hand's fingers, while everything else is kind of just hiding inside in this direction. There we go. Now I'm going to take these hands, make them a little bigger. There we go. Now that we drew them on top of each other, we're also going to draw them from a side angle. So it's just going to be blob on top of blob. There we go. Having a brief and overall understanding on how the fingers are going to lie on top of each other is going to be your best bet for it looking smooth. And just taking turns. Just understanding the grip and how everything comes into play is also helpful. So this one, 1, 2. It's not going to be the simplest just because we also have to make sure that we remember just the number and the finger counts. That way we don't get confused. So far we only have 3. So now we have 4. And then of course 5 as we begin to close things off here. So 1, 2, 3, 4 green, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then of course you don't forget the thumb. That is also going to be present on top of each other. As they are resting. There we go. And then of course a nice simple one. Which is going to be the fist. I feel like every artist at some point already knows how to draw the fist. It's just figuring out a way on how to make it look even more dynamic. The fist is one of the easiest sketches of a hand that you can draw. It's just now, it's really more about how much more dynamic that you can make it look. There we go. Once again, just remember a few dynamic rules. Anytime you're drawing a hand, first think about the shape and the pose that you want the hand to go for. And just think of it as like just an imaginary block/blob. And then wherever it is that you're trying to have the thumb or the fingers go, use shapes like cylinders and circles and help that be your guide. And one of the simplest way to do that is, I forgot what it's called, but you can just call it like a little rickety bridge sketch. And that will be a helpful guide for you. There you go. And then of course, always remember the height system of your fingers from tallest to shortest, and how that's going to sit on your hands. These components are going to be very helpful every single time that you make a sketch or every single time that you draw your hands. Because it's going to be a nice blueprint for you whenever you're drawing, and it's going to help you when you try to figure it out for each position. So first, once again, just imagine the blob, which is the overall shape of the hand. So for this one, I'm going to have the fingers kind of do some type of wiggly motion. And just remember the system of the hands. If your thumb is going to be on the left, then your pinky is going to be on your right. And then when it comes to the thumb, that one is the one that's going to stick out the most from the hand, just because it's more separated from the others. And you also have to keep in mind the thumb's unique shape. Always have 4 holes in the middle in between everything. And then once again, just think of it as a rickety system. So then using this guide, you can kind of predict the turns and the insides of the hands and how they're going to rest on the fingers like so. So as I erase, just to kind of make this more clear. There we go. So once again, we're going to use the rickety system. There we go. Just to develop the overall guide for our hands, so we know where everything lies. Actually, there we go. We have the nice shape for the hands. Alright, now I'm just going to move it just a little bit. Shrink just a little bit more. Perfect. Hello, welcome. Thanks so much for joining in. Welcome. And now, of course, just to kind of draw more of a grip, so say for example the hand is trying to grasp something. We're going to give it more of a circular position. We're going to remember the 4 holes, and this time we're not drawing it whole or completely. For this, we're going to think of it as nubs. And only show part of it like so. Remember the placement of the thumb. There we go. And make sure that it's holding on and grasping it. Okay, perfect. All right. These are some good example sketches for our hands, just to get the practice in. I think for this hand, just because I do want it to look a little bit better, we're gonna flip it. So that way it's easier for me to fix it once I start. Oh boy. There we go. Perfect. I just want to make sure that there's more space in between, so that way everything doesn't look too smunched up together once we start inking everything out. So because this is a rough sketch, I'm just going to leave it like this. I'm not going to fix too much. I'm going to decrease the accuracy so I can barely see it. So that way it'll also help me improve my line art. Once I start inking everything inside. So for my hands, I am going to put a little bit more detail and make it slimmer. There we go. The thumb is just a little bit too slim. There we go. And then something that I myself just decides to do anytime that I'm drawing is just when I make lines that I believe are a bit too thick, it actually helps my drawings to stand out a lot more when I do stuff like this. Just kind of go back inside and erase the thickness, just to kind of give it a different look. And then another detail to kind of remember is remember that your fingers are supposed to have space in between. I would say with the exception of these two here in the middle. Usually the middle fingers are a little bit more closer to each other, just because of placement. So when it comes to this, I don't really try so hard to kind of separate everything. But when I get closer to the fingers on the edges here, that's when I actually decide to take the time to just kind of go back and erase it a little bit. There you go, better. So right now it's looking a lot better. It's coming along. And then of course the pinky. Since the pinky is the shortest and the one that's the most farthest apart, second to the thumb, also try to make sure that it stands out enough. To where it still blends in, but not too different from the other fingers. There we go. And then of course you can add like little details like the lines in between here. But we're just gonna keep it simple when we're drawing the hands. And I am gonna make the hands just a little bit thicker. Just to get that overall feel that I wanted. Perfect. We're gonna come down here a little bit just because I want to show you guys what I mean when we get in more into detail. So when our hand is at an angle like this, it's also creating folds within our skin and the rest of our areas right here. So for this one, I'm trying not to be too shy when showing in the details like this. Just because you also want to exaggerate a lot the markings that's on your hands. That's going to help sketch out the details that you want for it. Oops. There we go. Once again, another thing to kind of keep in mind with your hands, especially when you're drawing in between them, you have to think of it like folds. So as I'm drawing my hands here, I'm going to draw it as if there's folds or spheres on top of each other. And then after that, that's what's going to help me exaggerate the skin. And the skin is what's going to help me exaggerate the shape. On the inside of the fingers. So now, when I want to draw the fingers right here, oops, sorry, it's a little too exaggerated. It'll also help me think about how I want everything to lie. So for here, I kind of imagine a box with this finger. And of course, this little edge fold right here. And this edge fold right here. This is still correct, but now we're going to do just a little bit of cleanup. And we're going to make the finger look pointy like so. Perfect. So now we're gonna do the same thing with these two fingers. Just a nice little cylinder shape. And then we're gonna make them pointy at the edge. This one we're not gonna make too pointy. It's gonna be a nice round pointy shape. So then it looks like this. Alrighty. And now we're gonna make sure that all the lines here are connected. Everything's connected to each other. And then we're gonna make this part just a little bit longer. If we can, actually. There we go. Perfect. We're gonna do the same thing over here. Just continue to be more fluid. And then just think about the lines in between. As we're drawing everything. And we're gonna think about the angles, not like that. There we go. Make sure the fingers look right. Draw everything like stacks on top of each other. There we go. I'm actually going to extend it like that. Do a little bit of cleanup just to make sure that everything looks and sets right. So now our hand looks a lot more natural. And it's easier to grip. We're going to do the same thing for the simple designs over here. Again, now instead of focusing mainly on the overall hand itself, it's going to focus more on the knuckles. And getting them as detailed as possible. There we go, like that. While also exaggerating and the thumb are supposed to be. So we're gonna fix this up a little bit. And remember, just think of them as cylinders or building blocks to just get your shape the overall how you want it to be. So far so good. These hands are looking pretty good. We're keeping it to a nice simple blocky design. And then now as we work on the rest of them, let's see. We're gonna start on the most complicated ones, which are the hands kind of touching each other and gripping each other. Again, when we're drawing these things, we also have to make sure that we don't get confused which hands on top of each other or which hands is which. That's why placing it in different colors helped a lot to separate it. And then don't be afraid to add little squiggly lines like this. That's going to be helpful for when we add the knuckles in. And when we start adding texture, just onto the hands as well. So I think we're going to start with red. Remember, just think of them as folds. And you don't have to draw everything completely. For right now, we're more so focusing on shape. And having everything match up and align with each other. So in total, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 fingers. And then I'll just do this, just so we know which direction. Ranging from left and right. We're gonna add little indicators. To give us a hint for the top of the fingers and at the bottom of the fingers. And then also position is going to be very important for how we're drawing them. So now as the fingers are closing on top of each other, oops. Sorry, hold on. Perfect, it's gonna get more nubby. As the fingers are closing on top of each other. We start thinking about that. So it's red, 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 green, green, green. So we have 3 reds, 3 greens. Perfect. Now we have 4 reds, have 4 greens. And then last but not least, the thumbs, which are also very important. Oh, I'm going to stand the arms right here. And how they're going to rest on top of each other like so. Alrighty. So now when we hide them, oh, it's actually going to look a lot more rickety like so. We're gonna fix the wrinkles right here, so this way it looks a lot more natural. And here we have it. That's better. Alrighty, next we're gonna draw our fist. Again, very simple. Just trying to focus on how texturized that you want the fist to be. Just on the count of the wrinkle, just on the count of the wrinkles. So this one, it's not going to be too detailed, but we are going to just make it more profound and distinct when we're drawing in the fingers that's hiding inside. Like this. And then just going ahead and giving just a little bit more detail with the skin. And showing the veins pop out just a little bit. There we go. Okay, perfect. Next. Now we're going to draw them closer to each other. And just making sure that we're paying close attention to the colors. And where everything lies. Oh, that's not right. That's not right either. Perfect. We're gonna add some of the lines here. Perfect. So now again, same method as before. It's too chunky. Perfect. Anytime that we're drawing the fingers at an angle like this, we have to always think about it as folds or just little cylinders on top of each other. just enough. Alright. Now we're going to pay attention to the details. And how it's hiding in between. Oh, that's not right. Sorry, we're going to redo that one. There we go. Easier. Alright, perfect. So for this, we're just going to think about it as if it's little tubes. Just little tubes coming from the hands off of it like so. That looks nice. It's going to be the same concept over here. Again, just pay attention to how the hand is placed. And the direction that each of the hands are going in. Perfect. Always, always, always save as you go. Just because of the program we're using. Sorry, we're just going to smoothen this out a little bit. There you go. We're going to have this one stick out just a little bit more. Okay, perfect. We're just going to follow this process for each of the fingers. Just making sure that everything is just smoothed out. And it's just going to follow a tooth pattern. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. This one's 1, 2, 3. I don't think we drew everything. There we go, all nice and pretty. Alright, that's good practice. So once again, just think of a nice tubed motion or a tubed movement anytime that you're drawing your hands, so that way it won't be as confusing. I know lots of the times when people are practicing drawing their hands, and of course I can attest to this, I always struggle with hands all the time. But it's always good to know and have that reassurance. That's why I always encourage having the first time messy sketches, so that way it can help you just get the confusion out of the way. Oops, no. Just get the confusion out of the way, that way you'll be more careful. When you're trying to ink out your final result. So because I am trying to make the hands just look a bit more detailed here. Here, I'm not afraid to really get in there. With the details and just have my hands create wrinkles for themselves. And since this sketch is a lot more freer, and when I mean more freer, I mean that because the hands are in like a certain position, I feel a little bit more confident when I'm following the sketch and just adding the tube movement. So here I can be more bubbly with my sketch. However, I am still trying to be careful to make sure that I'm following the movement of my hands, so that way I don't end up overdoing it and I get confused. There we go, and I'm just gonna fix the in-between here. Now because the fingers are touching each other, I also have to make sure that I'm drawing my fingers that are aligning together. So actually, I'm going to correct this motion here. Movement. There we go. I'm also going to make sure I'm still creating that divide between each finger. That's wrong. So now, perfect. It looks a lot better. Inking it out and adding in all those details. There you go. now, of course, the thumb. Perfect. The thumb is always going to have its own curves. And it's going to stick out by itself. And it should be on, sorry, it should be no different on each side. Perfect. So then it looks like that. Tell me. All right, so far so good. Perfect. So now it's going to be the same thing for our side angle right here. Here, there's not going to be as many fingers to focus on, which is good. And it'll make our sketch look easier. But we're still going to be practicing the same rule of thumb. Rule of thumb, sorry. And that rule of thumb is just remembering overall position. Position and where everything else lies. I think you're too chunky. There we go. There we go. And make it a bit more slimmer. Just fixing. So now it looks like this. And we can have the other finger come out like this. Oops, sorry. I'm gonna add a bit more detail like the lines. And then of course, our shortcut method. Oops. Boy, sorry, Krita is acting a bit wonky. There we go. Sorry about that. Alrighty, next sketch. And then remember just the details when you're drawing the palms. Again, we're taking the same method as we're doing before. This way it makes it a little bit more easier to see. Our box method that we've been using. Just to kind of make the overall shape. Of our hands. This one's just going to be even more so. Okay, we're actually going to fix our pinky because everything else is good. So that one. There we go, nice little fix. As we adjust this here. And then fix the connection. There we go. Now it looks a lot more natural. Save. Perfect. Hello, welcome. Thanks so much for stopping by. Okay. So that's very simple, easy box method. And then of course, what I'm gonna try to do, if Krita will let me, is try to use our shortcut method. Just copy and then paste. Oop, almost got it. And then flip the image like this. Okay, perfect. So now it looks like this. And we're actually going to shrink it just a little bit more. That's alright. There you go, so that way it fits everywhere else. Perfect.
Is your phone bill eating your hard-earned dollars? Then stop whatever you're doing and hear this out. Mobile
also, apologies for the ads. But I hope you guys do enjoy them regardless. Alright, so now we're gonna work on these simple sketches. We're actually almost done, but I hope you guys are getting just the overall concept of hands. Again, I'm still learning. My hands aren't always the best, especially when I'm drawing in the moment with my sketches. But little by little, as I keep practicing, I do see some improvements. And that makes it worthwhile. Anytime that I'm drawing or sketching anything out. So I'm actually going to do this. make sure that we're drawing from that angle. Perfect. Can't be afraid to kind of exaggerate the palms a little bit. There we go. There we go. That looks a lot more beautiful. Just having more fluidity and motion as we're sketching things out. Oops. It'll sorry. It'll definitely help your drawings shine through. And sorry. When it comes to the thumb, and I know that it doesn't really is supposed to stand out, it's more to the back. Also make sure that you're aligning it. So say for example these notches that I put right here, the thumb is also not supposed to be any bigger than that, just because you also have to take into account distance. So it's going to be distance and hand size. Oh, sorry. I don't like that. Alright, apologies, but Krita is actually glitching on me. So I'm not going to worry about this too much, even though I am. We'll go ahead and move on to the next sketch. Just so we can finish up and then I can give Krita a break. Okay, perfect. So we're actually going to work on this one. And for this one, like once again, we're gonna just exaggerate the skin a lot while also keeping everything simple. I'm gonna move it so you guys can see. Again, we're gonna follow the same method. That's not right. Just follow the same method while we're also adding in other details. Cool. Again, I'm not trying to overcomplicate everything, but I do want to make sure that the curves are exactly right. So it's going to be the third one in the middle. Perfect. That doesn't look right. That is wrong. So right here is our little impasse. So right here, because of the position of how the fingers are, there we go. We're not going to have the lines be symmetrical all the way or connect, but we're gonna draw them like this just so that you can understand how on top of each other it is. And then instead of redrawing it, there we go. We're gonna make it slightly bigger to fit. Adjust it just a little bit more. Perfect. Okay. Last but not least, the thumb. I just messed it up. Okay. Good enough. We're gonna erase some of the boldness. Just for a little bit of cleanup. There you go. Better. Always save as you go. Perfect. And then of course, that one can be last. Back to our roots. Looking good so far. Here I will exaggerate a little bit when it comes to the wrinkles. Just so you guys can see. And then when it comes to the hands, again, this is going to be the best example for what I mentioned before. Just when it comes to the spacing. And then also the height rule. So if your thumb is going to be on this side, remember the pinky is always on the other side. And those two are always going to be the shortest in the entire group. Now, just to kind of give pointiness. Remember when you're building the building block, always use the rule of 3 just to kind of connect with each other. Remember, the middle finger is always going to be the longest in your set of hands. In your set of fingers. So we're going to extend it. Or we're going to leave it like that, actually. Remember, the edge of the fingers are going to be a nice curve shaped. And then your finger that's closest to the pinky is always going to be the second longest. The finger that's closest to the thumb is always going to be the third longest. Just remember spacing. So usually the longest and the second longest is going to have a more closer relationship and want to be more next to each other. For the pinky, remember, don't be scared or don't be afraid when it's too furthest apart. It's supposed to look like that. So this is what we have so far. And then of course, make sure you go ahead and draw these lines right here, because that's what's going to help with the more details with your hands. Alright. Last sketch but not least. We're gonna have our hand dangling down. And of course, we're just gonna follow the movement of the sketch. And then how everything's pointed down and close to each other. And then of course, because it is folded down, remember that we're going to have these folds right here on the side that's closest to the thumb. Perfect. And then anytime we're sketching out each of the finger folds, we're just going to imagine each of the layers on top of each other. So just cute little bubble circles. And always remember the height difference between each one. So the thumb is in front. So remember, you're looking at it from a different angle position. So if this is the thumb, that means that this is going to be your index finger. This is going to be the third longest out of all of your fingers. So right next to your index finger is going to be your longest finger out of all your fingers. And then right next to that guy is going to be the second longest. So I'm going to draw him more curved and closer to that guy. And then right next to the second longest is going to be, yes, your pinky, which is going to be the shortest out of the group. There we go. And so now our hand looks like that. Cute little sausages. Alright, perfect. Going ahead and save. Alright, and there we have it. We have our cute little hand practices. Overall, these came out very well. I'm also going to go ahead and just move them a little bit so that way they look symmetrical. Perfect. All right, perfect, beautiful. So now we're gonna label everything just with the stuff that I've been talking about throughout the video. As a nice little short recap, just so that you guys have some nice tips and ideas to figure out how to draw your fingers anytime that you're doing your OCs or your sketches or just with any drawing that you guys plan to do in the future. So remember, we're gonna use our little bubble method that we did here, and when we do this we also have to think about it being layered on top of each other so that way it can give us the nice finger shapes that we want. Always follow it, rule of thumb. If your thumb is going to be on your right side, then the pinky is always going to be on your left side. The thumb has its own shape, and so just think of it as nice curved lines. It's always going to have this little point in this direction right here, which is a nice helpful guide anytime that you're trying to remember how it's going to stick out. Always remember that the thumb itself is more spaced out between the rest of the fingers, so it's going to be furthest apart. Now when we're practicing the 4 fingers, remember the building blocks is going to be under the rule of 3. So 1, 2, 3 blocks in order to create your finger. And just remember that everything is going to be rounded. Perfect. Now it's also always about direction, whether it's left, not left
With
or
Asana,
right,
you can manage any
or whether it's left and
from
right.
project intake to campaign management,
Give me one
to strategic
second.
planning, or anything else your team works on.
Once again, apologies for the ad, sorry. But always think about it as a rule from a direction of left and right, or right and then left. So this is for the thumb, and this is for the pinky, both for the thumb and for the pinky. So your middle finger is always going to be the third in the middle, and this is going to be the longest out of all of your fingers. And just remember, if that's the case, if your thumb is on the right and your pinky is on the left, or if your thumb is on the left and your pinky is on the right, then going off of the finger in the middle, the second longest is always going to be the finger next to the pinky, and the third longest is always going to be the finger next to the thumb. And the pinky is going to be the shortest, which is the fourth. Shortest. Perfect. There we go. And then also don't be afraid just to kind of add the distances and the squishes in between the hands. Perfect. So now, right above here, I'll go ahead and write the rule. So it's thumb, third, and then longest, and then the second, and then it's fourth. So this is going to be the pattern or the step that you're going to follow. So once again, it's thumb, third to longest, longest, second, and then fourth. Same thing with the visual. It's thumb, space, third, longest, second, and then the fourth. The longest, so first and second, the longest and the second are always going to be the most closest to each other and want to have more of a closer distance from each other. And then the third is the one that's going to be the closest to the thumb in distance. Perfect. And always remember to have gaps in between. Alrighty, perfect. There we go, that looks nice. Alright, and then this is our final results, and then our final view for our hands exercise, for what our hands look like, and then also just figure out different methods on how to draw them and make them look good. Alright. I hope this was helpful to any of you guys who are still here watching. I appreciate it so much. If you haven't already, please go ahead and check out my other social media link in my description. And then once again, I try to stream at least every day. I'm trying to go back and forth between streaming on Twitch and then streaming on TikTok and then also streaming on YouTube. Right now I'm streaming on both YouTube and TikTok. And so for those of you guys who kind of want to have this more in-depth or just go over this video again, it'll be uploaded onto my YouTube, so that way you guys can also have a nice guide or just a little tip for how I usually like to draw my hands, just to get everything step by step. So I hope this was useful and helpful to you guys, and I hope this helps give you guys another deeper understanding for how to draw your hands. So now when you draw your characters, you'll be a lot more confident drawing them in that position. And then of course, this is just also another tip. Anytime I draw my hands, I always put it on a different layer, so that way if I do mess up, then it won't get in the way of my original drawing, and that way I can just focus purely on the hands for when I'm doing the rest of my sketch. But yeah, once again, thank you guys so much. I can't wait to see you guys next time, and I'll go ahead and end the video, and I hope everyone here has a beautiful and wonderful day. Alrighty, you guys, bye and take care.